Hello everyone, welcome back to High Caliber Haymaker. Today I'm out here with Daniel. You'll notice that we are at a different range area. Long story short, the previous range I was at, we had too many conflicting schedules. So Daniel and I actually crossed paths, I'd probably say about 6 months ago or so, when I went to go get some ammo for the AK video we did here on the channel. And come to find out, Daniel has a range out here. So he's been gracious enough to let us come out here. And as both military men, we've been able to, establish a good friendship so far. But Daniel also does a lot of other hobbies out here at his range. So I'll just let him kind of touch on that a little bit.
This is the first time, guys, and gals, so don't laugh at me. I'm not very photogenic or don't have a really good career in acting. But I do CWP out here as a CWP instructor, certified sled firearms instructor. I work part-time security. I also did 15 years as a police officer. I currently carry under HR 218 and Leosa. And I do a lot of shoot and scoop. This is what I like to do. I'm in the pew-pew world. I'm a very, very broke and undereducated Coleon Noir.
But with that being said, that also lets us do two different things here. So we have two different shooting styles, two different training styles. So I'll be able to learn a lot from Daniel. Daniel will get to shoot a lot of cool stuff out here with us. So we are really thankful for him. So today's video, we've been hinting at it for quite some time. We're going to be doing the Canik TP9DA. I highlighted this firearm when we did the Canik Rival S video. This was one of the solutions I was offering now that constitutional carry is legal here in South Carolina. So let's get into it. Alright guys, so the Canik TP9DA. So this is a polymer frame to a steel slide. We've taken some initial shots already, and I will say that there will be some adjustments that are needed. But for the sake of today's video, we will keep it where it is and just simply compensate for it. However, I don't recommend that if this is going to be something you carry. I recommend making your adjustments, practice with it, so you are well versed. It does have a dovetailed front sight, and it does have an adjustable rear sight. That's where I think the adjustments need to be made. So thankfully, Canik has integrated that into this pistol. Feels really good in the hand. The grips are great. It does come with some interchangeable rear grips for those who need a little bit more texture, maybe a little bit less. You do have that option. They do come in the box once you purchase it. Now, like the intro, I was talking about how there need to be some options for constitutional carry people. I can't promote this enough, saying that you need to be practicing with your firearm and have additional training regardless of whether constitutional carry is legal in your state or not. The reason I say that is because just because you can carry doesn't mean you should without having some sort of training. So the reason I purchased this though is because it has a very unique feature on it. So it's in the name, the TP9DA, so it's a double action trigger. And the reason that it has that is because you can carry one in the chamber and decock the pistol, which switches the trigger from single action to double action. However, the pull on the trigger is significantly different, and that's something we'll highlight while we're shooting today in today's video. But overall, I think it might be a great option for those who are concerned for having a firearm that maybe doesn't have a safety, or for carrying one in the chamber. You can bump it, you can drop it, it's drop tested, and you should still be okay. However, obviously accidents happen, but this can help mitigate a negligent discharge or simply unholstering and causing problems that you don't want to have. So we're going to go ahead and get loaded up here in a second, and we'll start taking some shots with this thing, and we'll show you what it can do. All right, so the Canik TP9DA, as most Caniks, come with two 18-round magazines, thankfully. So we are loading up with 115 9mm Luger ammo, and let's just see if we can get a little bit warmed up here. we'll pause there for a second. Like I said, we took some initial shots, and what I'm noticing is that it's shooting down and to the right a bit. So with this having an adjustable rear sight, that's definitely something that I'm going to have to do later when I get home. But it's just something to be mindful of, is that, you know, when a firearm comes out of the box, it does not necessarily mean that it's going to be aimed at what you're shooting at. Another highlighted thing about this rear sight is actually it's the U-notch. So it does give you a little bit more visibility on the front sight here. So I'm going to go ahead and decock the pistol to see how the double action feels versus the single action pull. Initial thought, it's a lot of take up. We'll decock again. It's not unbearable though. Now we're going to try a couple double shots here. A lot of pull to the right. There we go. Slide lock to the rear. But overall feels pretty good. Alright, we've got our other 18 round magazine loaded up here. We're going to run through the dueling tree just to see if we can have some continual accuracy on this thing. Again, it feels pretty good. However, something to keep in mind that when you have it in single action, it does have quite a bit of take up. However, it does have a trigger set area. So you'll also notice, we'll do a highlight on this when we do the field strip, that it does have a trigger safety. However, it is not extended unless the trigger is in single action, which is very unique about this pistol. I'm not sure how I quite feel about it yet, but we'll run through the tree one more time just to see. Miss there. Still feels pretty good. Getting warmed up a little bit. Slide lug to the rear. 18 rounds. Still feels pretty good. Now we're going to have Daniel take a shot at this. He's a lot more tactical with his stance and things like that, so I want to see what his opinion is after sending some of these downrange as well.
First shot's going to be double action, and then we'll see what we hit single action, see how it feels on the reset. Got a nice trigger reset. Clear, empty. It's got a nice trigger reset. I foo-barred one of the chains. I think I just knocked it off its peg, but not a fan of the double action, but I've really never been a double action guy. But the single action and the trigger reset is pristine, absolute pristine.
Had to do a little range maintenance, had to fix that target over there, but we're going to stay away from it just to be safe. Need to put an extra bolt on there. However, I agree with Daniel. The single action is definitely a lot more consistent, I would say, as far as being able to control the firearm. The double action is a very long pull. However, like I said, if you want to carry one in the chamber and have it a little bit safer, it's still a great option. However, if you are going to take that initial shot double action, I would recommend some serious range time to get very familiar. We're going to run through one more magazine, then we're going to do a field strip, just to kind of show you how to take this thing apart, put it back together for cleaning purposes, and we'll finish up with probably a mag dump and some finishing remarks from me and Daniel. See what both of our opinions are on this firearm. single action trigger feels pretty good. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and break this firearm down, show you how to take it apart. I'm not going to clean it today. I'll do that at home. But just for cleaning purposes, maintenance purposes, I'll show you how to take this thing apart, put it back together. It's fairly simple. So we'll get into that. All right, guys. So first things first, of course, firearm safety. You want to make sure your firearm's unloaded. You're going to drop your magazine. Check your chamber is clear. We are clear. Most Caniks break down the same way. You have a release on each side here. You need to pull that simultaneously while you release the slide back just a hair. And once you do that, point your firearm in a safe direction, pull the trigger, and that'll allow your slide to come right off of the frame. So first things first, we're going to remove our recoil spring. As you can see, fairly dirty today, as it should be. Move your barrel forward just a hair, and you'll be able to remove that as well. As you can see, we have a lot of carbon buildup on the slide right there into the barrel, and pretty dirty throughout here as well. So what I would recommend is some carbon buildup cleaner. Let it soak for about 2 to 3 minutes. That'll break all that stuff down before you start wiping it. As you can see here on our internal components, very dirty throughout here where the magazine goes into the firearm. As you can see where it's sitting, a lot of carbon buildup here. That also needs to be cleaned very well. Something else I noticed, I don't know if you can see it from the angle on the camera here, there's a gap between the trigger and the frame. You can actually see straight through there, and I would also recommend cleaning that up as well. So, pretty simple field strip. Like I said, most Caniks are all the same. So let's go ahead and put this back together in reverse order. First thing you're going to do is drop in your barrel. Make sure it's fully seated. And then you're going to put this black front part of your spring into the front seat. Put a little bit of pressure on it, and then that will drop it into the front of the barrel. So you need to make sure it's fully seated, of course, or else your spring is just going to pop back out, or it's not going to line up when you are reassembling. Rear of the slide, front of the frame. Start with your rails right here. Rolls right over there, and then you're going to pull it. And then we're going to do a dry fire test to make sure everything's working properly. One more time. And while I have you here, we're going to do a simple reset on the trigger so you can see it. Right there. Not too bad. We'll show you with the double action as well while we're up here and nice and close. A lot of take up. Then you have a pretty crisp break. So Daniel, let's get your thoughts on some safety things as well.
I like the single stage trigger, not the double action. I like the single action, and I like the crisp reset on the trigger. Canik is one of those firearms out the box. The DA and the TP9 and the other ones that are just, their triggers are just amazing. And then you get into rival steel frame territories, those triggers are ridiculous. Good. I like the firearm, except for the double action. If this was my EDC, I would never use the double action at all. Personally, I would never use it because I feel like I would need those precious seconds trying to get through that wall.
How do you feel for someone who may be an untrained shooter for the double action?
Untrained shooter, everybody has different dichotomy when it comes to shooting and carrying. Not everybody carries with a round in the chamber. Some people do carry with a round in the chamber. I personally carry with a round in the chamber. For a novice shooter, if this is comfortable, you couldn't pick a better firearm to carry. You could not pick a better firearm to carry. And I'm sure that if I had double action firearms, that I would have no problem with a double action trigger. It's just that I don't have any double action firearms. Mine are all striker fire, single stage triggers. But whereas I was trained on those, anybody can be trained on a double action. I carried a double action in the Marine Corps, the 92 SF Berettas as my sidearm. So I had one there, but that was a long time ago. And then in my first part of my career as a police officer, I was carrying a 5906 Smith & Wesson at North Charleston. Those were single double action 9mm pistols. And I was proficient with it. But I guess for this firearm, it's an outstanding firearm. Absolutely outstanding, with an outstanding single action reset trigger. You won't find a better trigger, I don't think.
I agree. All right, guys, so we're gonna cut here for a second, and then we're gonna do our mag dump as we always do here on High Caliber Haymaker, and then we'll finish with our closing opinions. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
All right, guys, so we're loaded up with our final 18-round magazine. We're gonna do a mag dump here just to see if it can handle it. Like I said, hopefully it only takes one shot or not at all, but if you need to have some repetitive shooting, you need to have a reliable firearm to do it. So let's see if it can handle an 18-round mag dump. And I would say no problem. All right, guys, well, thank you for bearing with us. Like I said, I've been a little bit rusty because it's been a minute since I made a video for y'all. Hopefully you enjoyed today's review on the TP9. Daniel, again, thank you for letting us come out here to do it.
Absolutely, brother.
I appreciate it. Look forward to doing a lot more.
One of many.
And so now let's just kind of go over our thoughts, right? So for me, definitely the single action trigger. I think we both agree on that is definitely the way to go. But like I said, for the Novice shooter, maybe having that safety feature with the decocker might be the way to go. And another thing, guys, is this pistol's been out for at least 4 years or so. I think a lot of people have slept on it because either the color or there's different TP9 models, or, you know, for instance, Daniel's not a big double action fan. However, you don't have to carry it that way. But at the same time, I think, like I said, for the Novice shooter, it might be a good option in case you are concerned about carrying with one in the chamber. Another thing, I think the only thing really to highlight as well for me would be making a couple adjustments on that rear sight just to make sure that we're shooting as straight as we should be. For me, I think it's a little bit low to the right. That should be an easy adjustment. But what are your thoughts?
Canik is a good pistol. Like I said earlier, their triggers are phenomenal. The resets, especially on certain triggers. Me personally is not a fan of the double action, but as a novice shooter and somebody that's getting into the pew world, and they want to carry with a round in the chamber, and they don't feel like their ability to carry with a round in the chamber is where they're at right now, this would be a perfect choice for you to carry, or as a home defense gun.
I think it could easily be like an EDC.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's not very heavy. Trigger, like I said, trigger pull on the single is very light. With it being polymer to steel frame, it feels really good. It's not really top heavy, even with it being a steel slide on top. I think the counterweight with the magazine makes it feel really comfortable.
Yep.
The grip as well. But yeah, I mean, as far as the EDC.
And for those of you that are like, oh, it's not a subcompact or a micro, you can't carry it. I carry a full-size pistol as my everyday carry and an appendix rig. I got it on right now. So you can absolutely hide this, and I'm not a big guy. So this is absolutely an outstanding EDC pistol. Once you get it dialed in for your individual shooting purposes, I think you'll pass the first rule of gunfighting, and that's to win.
I agree. I agree. And price point, guys, like this gun comes in around $500. So also very affordable. You know, like I said, if you want to get into Canik can get very expensive, especially when you start getting into like the rivals and things like that. You're looking at $1,000 plus, but this comes in right under $500. And I think it's a great starter option for sure. There are, let's not, you know, negate that there are significantly better firearms, quality, price, things like that, of course. But if you're getting into shooting, great starter pistol. Again, safety feature for those who are the novice shooter. But I think overall it's a great start. Anyway, guys, don't forget to click that link tree in the description down below. That'll take you to a lot of great things that you can purchase for yourself, especially around the holiday times as well. A lot of sales going on, so feel free to check that out. I'm High Caliber Haymaker. This is Daniel. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.
God bless.